currently dealing with this burnout on mainstream modern gaming by turning my attention back to the past, immersing myself in PC gaming, because when I was growing up, I never had a powerful PC, and I missed a lot of classic games of the mid-2000s, the late 90s. So finally having a decent PC and just being able to go back and experience some of these classic titles of gaming's heyday really has given me a newfound appreciation for just how cool and creative the industry used to be. And it seems like these days, developers and publishers and the companies that used to inspire a lot of awe, look at Blizzard, look at BioWare, and most recently Bethesda. I mean, these companies that used to have some of the best and brightest in the industry working for them, producing title after title of absolute gold. It's been horrifying watching these global corporate influences just come in and suck the lifeblood out of this industry. Just year after year, things get worse and worse. But I guess the sad thing is that they are still selling enough games to justify this continued slow march into utter cuckoldry. And it's interesting because, you see a developer like CD Projekt Red, for instance. I mean, they made The Witcher. They kind of define themselves as being this kind of renegade developer who they just dance to their own tune. They don't give a shit what the reviewers think. They don't give a shit what any of these journalists say, right? They wanted to make their edgy Eastern European dark fantasy titty game, and they did so with an unapologetic flair. And this is one of the reasons why I was actually looking forward to Cyberpunk 2077, like a couple of years ago, after the first trailer reveal. I saw they were tweeting some kind of, I can't remember what it was exactly, but they were upsetting the usual crowd on Twitter because they weren't pandering enough. But flash forward to 2020 and none of that anymore. They've completely cucked. I watched one of their behind-the-scenes developer diaries the other day, and they have a bunch of, blue-haired, fat, gender-ambiguous women working for them, LGBTQ, flags everywhere. How inclusive, how progressive. Please, journalists, let us suck your dick so we can get a decent review. What a shame. And, it just shows you how developers that used to be considered edgy, I mean, look at Rockstar, for instance, right? Red Dead Redemption 2, like, some of the dialogue in that game, you could tell was written by a seething, libtard, right? Like, did Dan Houser write that game? I'm not sure, but it's America bad, Indians, KKK. The foundation of America is bad. Let's have some feminist characters in a game set in the late 1800s. Completely fucking, it's just lame, okay? And Red Dead 1 was a great game, regardless of the political leanings of the creators. They were making a game because they wanted to make something good. But now we live in a post-Trump world where everything being produced by the media establishment, from movies to video games, it all has to now echo the sentiment of fuck Trump. Because, hey, democracy only functions when we vote in another neoliberal hack, right? But God forbid anyone go against the grain. We've gone from thinly veiled propaganda to just obvious, terrible propaganda. Like, if you're going to propagandize to me, please can you make it a quality piece of entertainment? I guess that's all I'm saying here, right? But no, this Trump derangement syndrome that seems to have affected every single fucking person involved with the entertainment industry has resulted in the worst period of movies, music, everything. It's just shit. And frankly, I already thought that legacy media was terrible anyway, but it's now infected games to a completely mind-boggling degree. Look at Wolfenstein, for instance. I mean, the first Wolfenstein, the modern reboot Wolfenstein, I should say, was a cartoonish lampoon of World War II, and certainly was not made to be taken seriously, just like the original Wolfenstein. But then, the sequel comes out, and now it's like, no, this game is totally a pro-communist game. And communism is awesome, but we're still going to try and make it a joke, but it's not a joke. But laugh at Nazis getting killed because it's serious, but it's not serious, but it is serious. Because the developers are actual communists. So communism is not a joke, but Nazism is totally a joke, but don't get into it too much because we can't be seen to be condoning Nazism, okay? Because Trump is a Nazi. In fact, it doesn't look like anyone really knows anymore what's going on with Wolfenstein. It's fucking terrible, and it's become a cringe singularity. Just like the new Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines game, which, I mean, this is a sequel to a beloved PC RPG that had a bunch of edgy dialogue, and it was fun, and you could basically play it however you want. It was not a political piece. It was simply a classic Western RPG. The sequel, fans of the original obviously were looking forward to it, but nope, it is just another fucking SJW wank fest. And you better enjoy it, shitlord, because this is what you get. And if you don't like it, you're a bigot. Fuck you. And you know what? I really think that this new Elder Scrolls game they're working on, it's blatantly going to be set in Hammerfell, am I right? So, are we going to get a Redguard Lives Matter main quest line or something? I mean, at this point, I have no idea what to think or expect anymore, because this entire industry is clowned, and with the possible exception of Japan, although they are in decline, I think that's fair to say. I mean, just look at Konami, for instance. They seem more interested in making pachinko machines than maintaining the legacy of the Metal Gear series, Castlevania, so many classic titles that they own the rights to. Silent Hill's another one. What a waste. What a waste. But really, even in Japan's kind of diminished state, they still cannot compete with the level of sheer masturbatory autism that's coming out of the West. The Western game industry seems more interested in pandering to the transgender community than producing anything remotely enjoyable these days, and it's actually completely absurd. Like, I've kind of soaked in this malaise for so long, it's becoming normalized to me, but you have to step back occasionally and just go, why? Like, was Gamergate really that upsetting to these egghead fucking weirdo journalists and these irritating, hyper-politicized, over-socialized adult children that now everything must burn? Like, did these people ever really enjoy video games in the first place? I actually don't think that they did. They are what my boy Yuri Bezmenov referred to as demoralized, useful idiots. And they're being used to obviously destroy this historically male, historically white subculture, which has been deemed verboten and has subsequently been destroyed by these, dearkin, transgender fluid, fucking literal communists. The only way I can even see this improving is there needs to be some kind of McCarthyism 2.0. A mass rejection of Marxist and communist ideas on a grassroots societal level, but also enforced by the government. And I'm not advocating for authoritarianism. I just think that a nation's government should, at the very least, try and preserve the soul of the fucking country. I mean, you have radical communists in academia, they control Silicon Valley, social media, completely taken over gaming, obviously. They're all over the corporate world. This globo-homo crap that they push is taught in seminars. You can't avoid it, and if you try and reject it, you lose your reputation, your career. This is completely fucked up. And this is exactly what Bezmenov was warning the US about in the 70s, okay? And speaking of Bezmenov, it's actually quite interesting that the new Call of Duty Cold War, the first trailer there, actually included a lot of Bezmenov's talking points. So I really hope that that is an indication of a significant swing away from Marxist socialism and communism being accepted as somehow fine. It's all fine and dandy as part of mainstream culture. Because the media reinforces the idea that, it's completely fine, it's virtuous even to be a radical anarchist Antifa communist, right? That's fine. But God forbid, the guy that goes to work every day, works on a small business, raises his kids, takes the kids to church, he's a fucking dangerous, crypto-fascist, right? It's been a slow boil. We've been the frog being boiled for decades. Thanks to this slow march through the institutions that is key. It's a key point in a Marxist takeover. It's happened in China, the Color Revolution. It's happened in Cambodia. It's the same thing. A cultural takeover occurs first, and then an actual revolution takes place later. But I guess my point is, without addressing the underlying cultural social issue that we have as a society, we're never going to be able to have nice things anymore. I mean, without a free marketplace of ideas, all you're going to have is propaganda and more censorship, because there is no reasoning with these Marxist deerkin gatekeepers. They will simply stamp out any instance of dissent, and, we've seen it happen over the last few years, an absolute purge of any wrongthink and anyone who is not on board with their very specific and very, ironically, oppressive agenda. And even if you're someone that doesn't really even follow politics, you can just look at what happened to gaming over the last however many, 10 years, and that's a microcosm for what happened to the US. It's the same thing. Marxist cultural subversion 101, Bezmenov style.